Hi, and welcome to Living Above the Noise. I'm your host, Terry Covey, and I share from over 4 decades of raising 10 capable, independent adults. I'll inspire and equip you, an intentional mom, to embrace your motherhood journey with joy, purpose, and determined faith. Stick around as we discuss how you can rise above the noise of everyday life and decide for yourself how you want to live your family life. You'll learn how to blend traditional with some outside-the-box ideas for raising kids who can stand on their own and think for themselves in a world that's pretty easy to get lost in. Living above the noise is just that. It's about you choosing the space you're going to hold on this planet and then living within that space, even amidst all the noise around you. And you and I are going to experience different noise in our lives. You might live in a city with actual real noise. I live out by a lake where it's pretty quiet, except for the last few weeks we've had some construction going on and the dump trucks are rumbling up the hills near us, nearly driving me nuts. So you don't have to always live in the country to have quiet. But let's get back to that noise. It's not just noise from our ears. It's noise within our minds. It's noise from old tapes that play, past experiences we've had. It's noise from old relationships and current relationships causing us struggle. It can come from expectations that won't settle down and that actually wear you down. It's a drive within you that won't quiet itself until the timing is better. We each live with noise, and when we look at someone else, we don't always know what they're dealing with. We might think they have a quiet, peaceful life at home while we're struggling, but you know what? We don't know what's going on in their life. I felt that recently. We're going through a lot of family changes, and I've felt a little bit or a lot of chaos as I try to get out this next podcast episode. Plus, not a good time, but I'm shifting over to video for YouTube, and so I have to pull myself together and all the things I have to learn to make this happen. But I bet you when others see me at church or out doing errands, I bet they think that I'm peaceful and calm, and I think they probably think my life is pretty perfect, especially if they're one of those people that's struggling right now. They probably think that I'm doing okay. But let's not fool ourselves. We're all trying to navigate our human existence. We're all dealing with noise. This podcast is all about helping you quiet your noise. It's for you, a Christian woman, mom, grandmom. I'm here to help you reclaim family life. This space, this home that should be your safe haven, your haven of rest, your quiet place, your calm amidst the storm. And that's going to take work. I get it. Our family has done so many things over the years. We've lived so many places across the country, and we've tried so many activities that sometimes I think, was our home always a quiet place, a calm amidst the storm? So remember, we can bring the noise right into our own home. I'm all about helping you discover ways that you can calm the chaos and quiet the noise so you can live at peace. Join me if that's what you're searching for. Join me if that's what you need today. In the next few episodes, we'll be exploring how to teach your kids entrepreneurship. And one way to do that is to teach them to live above the noise themselves. Give them lots of opportunities to learn and grow into the person God created them to be. Lots of opportunities to experience new things, to build self-confidence and to be self-directed. Basically, to know and believe that they can do pretty much anything they put their mind to. And that, my friend, is the beginning of entrepreneurship. You're going to learn pretty quickly that I'm a non-mainstream, do-it-my-own-way kind of gal. And I know when you look at me, you're probably thinking, she's not a gal, she's got lots of wrinkles, but you're only as old as you feel. And although my body has begun to betray me, I still think and feel pretty young. Hey, I was just out wake surfing with my family a few weeks ago and having the time of my life. I've shared something before about my granny and what she said on her deathbed. I asked her what it felt like to be dying, and she said, I still feel like I'm 18. It just made me think, no wonder that even in her 80s, she was fashionable and trendy, and she was my favorite granny, and I want to be just like her. So, here at Living Above the Noise, you will be encouraged to find what floats your boat, and you're going to learn how to help your kids discover what floats theirs. all while trying to find that healthy and somewhat elusive balance between keeping them alive and letting them spread their wings. Before we move into our Entrepreneur and Teaching Your Kids to Think series, are some tidbits of what we did that I mean by that elusive balance. I have a son that's in construction. And when he was probably 17 or 18, he was already out doing jobs for local homeowners, neighbors, church friends. And, sometimes some things that he did that I was like, are you sure you know how to do that? I actually have two sons like that. Are you sure you know how to set those footings? Are you sure you put enough footings in? Those were the questions because my dad taught me those kind of questions. But my son is now building a multi-million-dollar Christmas village down near Houston. And I think all those lessons he learned, letting him try and risk failure were worth it. I have a daughter. She's a YouTube seamstress. Her name is Bella Mays Designs, if you want to look her up. But she started, 12 years ago, at the age of 13, sewing her first costume that she wanted to sell on Etsy. And, that was a little scary as a mom to think, oh, she's going to sell on Etsy. What if she sewed some seams wrong? What if the person isn't legit? What if they think she's not legit? What if they try to take advantage of her? But you know what? She moved forward. She did it. She has now built a very good name for herself. She's precision and accurate and has some of the most amazing costumes. You need to check her out. But anyway, there's a lot that goes into parenting, a lot of risk, a lot of concern, a lot of worry. But my biggest advice for you is let your kids put themselves out there. Be willing to risk, give them lots of advice, and then sometimes just watch, and you will be amazed. And I'm also here to remind you that you have the privilege to live your life the way that you choose. You don't have to do it the way everybody else does it. And you're going to do that while you help your kids gain a footing as they enter this big wide world. And you know what? This is a world that blends opportunity like never before with some pretty intense worldviews as we've seen in recent years. So this is where I land on this podcast called Living Above the Noise. It's why I'm still here, trying to keep it breathing while living a very busy life with a very large family, because I believe in you. I sometimes question, why am I here? But I see the moms out there struggling. I see the moms getting sucked into Instagram and social media and the pressures from the world and the pressures from their friends. And I want to help you. I believe that God created you and your family, your kids, to do great work with the unique design that He gave you, that He gave them, that He gave your husband. And I want to help you think for yourself and, under God, become the best version of yourself you can be. And to help those little humans that you care for, guide, teach, and love to do the same, to become the best version of themselves that they can be. With that at the core, this world is bound to be a better place because you and they are in it. Recently my older daughter and I were talking about raising kids and how do we spend our time and how do we know what projects are worth being part of, venturing into, risking, and how that all equates with learning and raising our children. Someday I'm going to have her on a podcast and you're going to get to hear some of her wisdom. But we landed on this, that in the long run, we parents do things for the benefit of our kids, even when it doesn't benefit us necessarily, and even if we don't like all the work that it takes to do those things. So here's an example of what I mean. Last year, my daughter decided to plant a garden. Amazing flowers, amazing. She wanted to raise them, sell them at farmers market, and try this little venture. And you know what? It was very successful. The flowers were amazing. She did sell some at farmers market. She didn't make as much as she had hoped. So she decided to downsize this year. She could have just stopped altogether, but she decided to plant a little garden and enjoy the flowers for her family and herself. She realized as she was doing that this flower garden and what she learned last year and all the work that it took wasn't necessarily just about her or the flowers or the farmer's market, but it was about her kids. She noticed that the other morning, her daughter Ellie, who's 11, early in the morning before anybody was up, She was seen picking flowers just like she was taught before they get hot, because they last longer that way. I didn't know that, did you? But anyway, Shayna realized that in the long run, it felt like it was for her, but it was for them. It started out as her dream, but as she got too busy and gave it up, she realized her kids have learned new skills and they have now found what interests them. Not all of them, but even if it's just one of them, it's an amazing skill to have. And I can almost guarantee you that one or more of those children are going to have flower gardens. And you know what, that granny I told you about, she bought a half acre with her husband in their backyard so she could plant a little forest and flower gardens. And I'll never forget watching her pick the little dried flowers and putting them in her pocket to save her seeds for next year. Yeah, that was my granny. And you know what, I still think of her. And she's been gone 35 years. So are you going to be that person people are going to remember when you're their granny or their mom? And I think that's a great thing to aspire to. So this idea of what we teach our kids and whether the endeavors that we take on are important or not, and sometimes we wonder if they are. We were having a conversation several years ago, and we were talking about how one year, this was a long time ago, we had a rainy day in California. It's California, you're very used to going outside, you're very used to being active. So we were a little antsy and decided, hey, why don't we go down to Beverly's, which was our favorite fabric store there, and pick out a bunch of fabric in different themes that you choose. And of course, they were all excited picking their colors and picking their themes. One was a ballerina bear theme and another was a sunflower theme. And my son's was bright colors and stars and planets. They picked out their fabrics and we spent the next several weeks making quilts. And even down to my youngest was 6, and I'm going to have to see if I can find a picture of him sewing. But he learned to sew his own quilt. And you know, they all have their quilts now. But we were discussing this a few years ago, and my second daughter, Jessie, I said, you know, was it all worth it? We spent so much time, we do so many things. And she said, Mom, it wasn't about the quilts. It was the lessons that we learned from sewing the quilts. So think about that. The things you're doing, just like we were taught in school. I hate algebra. Why did I have to take algebra? And they will say that the lessons were the diligence, the discipline to work at learning how to make algebra work, right? So same thing with the garden, same thing with the quilts. This is how you're going to train your children. This is how your children are going to learn. And that's a really good thing. And something to think about, you know, our culture has kind of brainwashed us to think one way. We've actually come to believe that we need classes and lessons for our kids to know about the world, to learn all they need to know to grow up and be an adult. And we even start to think that that's how we need to learn and grow. But I'm here to kind of burst your bubble and tell you that that's not true. Learning is free, and it doesn't usually involve classes and teachers and experts. You are wired to explore and learn and grow and create, and so are your kids. There was an Instagram reel that I saw a few weeks ago, and it was showing little children playing by a pond, and they were gathering sticks, and some were finding frogs, and some were building things with the rocks, and it was describing how children are kind of born scientists. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately as I've been watching my grandkids play. They really are. We went to a lake the other day where I was wake surfing, and while we were surfing, some of the kids were on the beach, and they literally spent hours building rafts and playing with trees and rocks and all the little things they found while they were there. They are literally born creators and scientists. I just love that. And when you keep that in mind, you can stop yelling at your kids when they're getting sidetracked, because sometimes they're getting sidetracked because they're learning something. So think of it this way. I love this vision that came to me the other day, but I like to view the world as like this big oyster, and you're the pearl growing inside that oyster. You're growing and you're learning and you're developing into a whole beautiful person. Let your mind sink into that for just a minute. Imagine who you are. God designed you. God placed you there. Let your thoughts wander towards all the things you may have wanted, the things you wanted to try over the years, the things that you might be still interested in, but you just feel like you don't have the time for them. And I understand when you have little people, I know you don't have a lot of time and you may only be able to sneak in a little YouTube or a podcast to learn about it. But think about this, in a few short years, you can include your kids in those learning adventures and you're going to have so much fun doing it. They're going to get to grow and learn right alongside of you. And then the bonus is they're going to be learning and interested in things that you get to learn about that you never thought you were going to learn about. And it really can be quite exciting. So there's another bonus of having that thinking, learning mindset. And it's that you're showing your kids how to become their own beautiful, God-created pearl. You're helping them see the beauty of their life. So something I want you to consider as we end this episode. You're going to do your best as a mama if you're willing to grow, willing to look for the parenting areas and the other areas in your life that you might be weak, and then focus on improving them. You're going to not want to in many areas because it's easier to stick with what's most comfortable. And if you learn about the human mind, I'm sure you've heard it called the monkey brain, but our brain is wired for safety and security. So we pretty much will do anything to stay comfortable. Hopefully it's not just me, but I'm guessing you know what I'm talking about. And it's critical that we look at these areas that are missing in our life, in our parenting, in our character. We know, as I look around, I see areas that I need to get a new mindset about decluttering. I need to do better at planning. These are all things that we need to be open and aware of because it's so good to grow. We're polishing those stones, remember? So here's a few things to think about just in the parenting area that you might want to go, how's it going in this? Does one child need extra hugs or more attention to build their confidence, and they might actually be getting left out because you're busy in another area? Just something to consider. Does another of your children need to work harder or need help with a confusing area of their life, even to you, if that's something that comes naturally? Sometimes that can be frustrating to us, but they need your extra guidance. Does your child need a little push to try something new? Even though, like we talked about earlier, you're afraid they might fail. You're afraid of the outcome. My daughter, I was just so afraid she was going to mess those costumes up when she was only 13 and sewing them for another adult. But she put herself out there, she challenged herself, she grew, and she learned along the way. So kind of bite your tongue, help them out, and let them go. We moms are always going to feel that nudge to bend and flex to serve those that God's put under us, to train, to raise. It's in our DNA. It's in our hormones. It's how we're wired. At our core, we know this is important work we do. These are God's children, His next generation in a long line of generations, and you get to be a part of that amazing plan. So I say let's get going. Let's move forward with confidence, willing to learn and grow along the way, and be willing to polish these beautiful pearls that God's created within us. Well, I know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with me. If you gained insight and inspiration here, one thing you could do for me is take a moment to leave a review. Podcasting can be very lonely without all of the easy likes and thumbs up of social media. I'm going to use your feedback to plan future content so I can be a better help to you and women like you. You can also find me on social media channels. I spend most of my time on Instagram. There will be a link to all those in the show notes. And for more information, seeing some of these podcasts written out in blog post form, other blog posts I've written before I started podcasting, you can find those on my website at livingabovethenoise.com. I'm a trained life coach and a mentor. And I would love to help you as a mom or empty nester with some of the decisions that you have to make or the confusion that you have at this season of your life. It can be as simple as how to gain order in your home, your schedule, your plan. It can be how to think through what your next steps are. I'm here to help you. You can sign on for a free 45-minute discovery call there to see how coaching can help you. And I know it can because it's helped me. One place I'd also like to direct you is my Think, Pray, Plan, Do planner on Amazon. It comes in a 1-year or 2 6-month formats. It's a really great place if you do not plan out your week or your month to start doing so. I have articles. I've got a podcast on how we can be afraid of planning, and sometimes that's what's holding us back. I know it changed my life, and I want it to help you. Remember, I'm in your corner rooting for you. So until next time, learn and grow and ask yourself some questions and polish that beautiful pearl of yours.